Okay, thank you for joining us for the pre-application meeting for the Boise Airport Concourse A suspensions. It's Thursday, May 21st at 1 o'clock, and we are right on time. My name is Savannah Shan. I manage public art projects at the Boise Airport. That means that the selected artists will be working with me, which is hopefully a good thing. This is a really brief agenda. I've already introduced myself, but in the room with me is Jolene from our purchasing department. Just going to give her a second to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Jolene Mary, and I am the purchasing specialist that is assisting from the procurement department with this project.
All right, so next thing, we're going to do a quick project overview, run through the application, the criteria, what the selection looks like, and then some tips and time for questions. Really brief background, the Boise Airport here in Boise, Idaho just turned 100 years old, April 2026, which is really exciting. And coinciding with this milestone is an upgrade and expansion project. We're building a new concourse and upgrading our existing terminal, which is helping fund these public art projects, including these suspensions that we're talking about today. And this is because the city of Boise has a longstanding percent for art program. So I get a little bit of a percent from eligible construction projects, which means that we can do these really big, exciting projects. Now, getting into the meat of it, let's talk about the project concept and goals. You'll see this rendering over here. This is envisioning what the new concourse might look like. It's not going to look exactly like this. You'll see we have these clear story windows, these exposed beams, mass timber, some trees, because we're the city of trees. So this gives you a general feel for what the space will look like. And with that, some of the goals for these suspensions that we're talking about are to activate this open space, respond to this abundance of natural light from these windows, and complement this overall look and feel that the architects have designed for this concourse. But your work should be distinctive, vibrant, dynamic throughout the day, so that passengers who are actively walking by, like this guy, and static passengers who are sitting down, like this person, are able to enjoy it from both perspectives. We would like the artist to establish a unique visual marker that is memorable, unexpected, and creates various experiences. Make strong and intentional use of this vertical space with a design that is appropriately scaled and appropriately impactful. These two selected artists or artist teams will be awarded a $350,000 contract each and will be expected to work together and create like a sort of a cohort of artists so that we have a cohesive set of works that work like bookends to the concourse. So they aren't going to look exactly the same. You aren't going to be mimicking each other, but we want you to be in conversation because this is going to be a shared space. Let's see. This is the first site available. You'll see this pink section up here. And this is showing the entrance to the concourse. So you go through security, you go through the connecting hallway, and you enter into this space, which we're calling the node or the entrance to the concourse. And you'll have this above to suspend your work. This is the second site. You'll see these windows showing that we are at the end of the concourse. Same thing, this is the space that you have available. This is just a snapshot of it. I'll talk about dimensions here in a moment. And this is where the work would be suspended generally. This is going to show you both locations in the same image. So this is like a top-down bird's eye view of what the concourse might look like. You'll see we have these triangular clear story windows that you saw in a previous image. This is the entrance to the concourse. You'll see this pink square all the way down to the end of the concourse, this pink square or rectangle, showing the available space. And both suspension opportunities have the exact same space available. So 28 feet wide, 108 feet long, 28 feet wide, 108 feet long, coming out to about 3,000 square feet. Here are those dimensions that I mentioned again. This is your length, about 108 feet, your width, 28, and then your depth is about 4 feet. That's how much space that you have to work with. I know that that's not a very large suspension coming down, but I think 4 feet is still plenty adequate to get some beautiful artwork in there. Your weight limit, again, at both locations is about 4,500 pounds, so 1.5 pounds per square foot. And just a, friendly thing to keep in mind, friendly reminder, this is what's available, these numbers, but you're not required to fill up the entire space. However, please consider your proportions and your scale and the visual weight of the piece in this space. You don't have to use every single inch of that 108 by 28 by 4, but think about what you're contributing in this available space. Here's a quick timeline. The RFQ released on May 6th. We are now right here in this pre-application meeting. Your questions and clarifications are due Wednesday, June 10th at the end of the day, Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. Your RFQ deadline, no late applications, is Wednesday, June 17th at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. So please note that that is not the end of the day. That's happened before. It's due at 1 p.m. and we can't accept any late applications. So make sure you get it in before then. The rest of these dates you'll see are quite a bit more broad. These dates won't be changing, but these might be fluctuating a little bit with the airport's construction project at large. So finalists will be selected over the summer. They'll have some time to prepare and present their proposals in there. Then the artists will be selected and awarded their contracts between the fall and winter months of 2026. The artwork should be fabricated between 2028 and 2029, reaching substantial completion in the early months of 2029. And then installation is slated for between the years of 2029 and 2030. And again, these will get narrowed down as we get further into the project, further into the construction. And we will be communicating those dates with the selected artists as they're decided. So this is all I got for you right now, but it still gives you a good snapshot of where these components are landing. Now let's talk about our application and criteria. First thing to note, your signature page, you have to do this. It is pass fail. You have to sign it. Just no other way around it. And then this is what you're going to be scored on. So there's a list of short responses. Each is 500 words or less. Then you'll upload an artist resume, some previous work samples, and a reference contact sheet. And all of this is available as a package in Jagger, which is the platform that we use to receive these applications. Let's go to the next slide. Here's the criteria that the panel is going to be scoring you on. So again, that signature page, pass, fail, that has to be completed. This is your completeness of application. So your minimum requirements, demonstrate experience at scale and cost, and then we'll complete those finalist reference checks. Your artistic quality and stylistic fit. The panel is going to be looking at your past work examples for this. 25 points are available max. Then your ability to follow through and collaborate. The panel will be looking at things like your resume and your responses to those short answers. Also 25 points available. Then inclusion of project concept and goals. So that's, visual vibrancy, activating the open space. Also 25 points available. And then finally, a community engagement plan. We really want to know how you're going to work with local Boiseans, how you respond to feedback, how you take in that information, and how you reflect that in your work. Also 25 points available. Now this is the rubric, also in Jagger, but this is just a quick look at what the panelists will be using to score you. So these are all those things that I just talked about: stylistic fit, ability to follow through, project concept and goals, and community engagement plan. It just gives you a chance to see how we're ranking things between 1 through 5 and how you go from 0 to 25 points. And then up here, you'll see signature page, and then if your application is complete, those are pass fail. And friendly reminder, if you have any questions, go ahead and start popping them in the Q&A feature. and we'll have time to discuss those at the end. Now into selection. Artist selection is not determined by me, unfortunately, because I have very strong opinions, but it's made up of community members and artists and sometimes airport and arts and history commissioners. It may consist of these people. There's no promise about that, but it is at large Boiseans who are local to this area who are selecting the work, so not just city staff. Panelists use that previously mentioned scoring rubric on all applications. So it's always fair, always looking at the same thing in every application. They'll have a meeting to discuss those top scored applications after their first meeting where they go through initial scores. And up to 3 of the highest scored artists or artist teams will be invited to submit a concept proposal for one suspension and then up to 3 for another. So we may have up to 6 finalists on this project. And each finalist will be compensated $3,000 for their proposals and then invited to present an interview with the panel again during those late summer, fall, and early winter months of 2026. Now, a couple of tips and questions. So any questions that you have after this meeting have to be submitted to the Jagger Q&A board. That's where we finalize information because nothing I'm saying here is technically binding, but we answer those questions on the Q&A board so that everyone has equal access to the questions and the answers. And if you have any issues with Jagger at all, Jolene is your girl. She is Jagger extraordinaire and can answer all those questions. And then also anything in this info session will be posted to that board. So, if you have to pop out early and you miss an answer to a question, it'll show up later for everyone to have access to it. Another tip, I can't say it enough times, you have to complete the signature page. We can't accept them otherwise. So don't let this be the reason that your application isn't accepted. And then finally, because it's an airport, the selected artist may be required to go through a background check and receive SIDA badge access. And I have a little spiel that I'm gonna read off word for word. But after that, if you need more information, you can find that here at this link, which is iflyboise.com, which is the Boise Airport's website. But I'm gonna read a real quick disclaimer about SIDA badges. So as specified in the sample artist agreement, the artist may be required to apply for the Boise Airport Security Display Area, or SIDA, badge access and pass a background check. The selected artist will be responsible for completing all steps necessary to obtain and maintain SIDA access, following all associated rules, procedures, and guidelines associated with this badge access. So we encourage you to review this information of what may be needed if you're selected for this project. Now, if you wouldn't mind, keep dropping those questions into the Q&A feature, and I'm going to pull it up and we'll get to those questions.
Savannah, I am here if you want me to.
Yay! Read me some questions, Hannah.
All right. All right. The first one, can you please provide a section of the concourse showing the location and elevation of the glass? And then there's 2 more questions within this. Can you please add a north arrow to the floor plan?
I know.
The depth you mentioned today, 4 feet, if different than the RFQ 3 feet. Can you please clarify which is correct?
Yeah, so that's really good distinction. We'll double check the RFQ, and if it does say 3 feet in there, we'll amend that document so that it's correct. The actual depth is 4 feet, and I'll go back to that rendering to show it. So good catch. If it says 3 in there, that's incorrect. It is actually 4. Thank you for pointing that out. And then when you asked for elevation showing the glass, I'll have to follow up on that and receive some additional renderings and information. So that is a TBD, and I will get back to it. But good questions. Hannah, were there any other questions in there that I didn't answer? Would you read that again?
Yeah, so the one that has not been answered is, can you please add a north arrow to the floor plan?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'll provide an updated rendering on the Q&A board in Jagger to highlight that.
We may actually amend. I think we should amend it.
All right, next question. Can you elaborate on what you are looking for in a CE plan?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things that we're looking for in a CE plan is sort of just how you work with the community and how you would connect with them. How would you approach asking for feedback? So who would you approach? How would you incorporate that feedback to be connected to your design? So there's no template for this document. You can write it in a Word doc. You can put it in Adobe and include images if you want to. But really, we want to know how you would approach asking for feedback from the community. So that's just going to be really important as these pieces really need to be grounded in Boise, in Idaho, what it means to be here and what it feels like to be here. So we really are wanting artists to reach out to community members and in that community engagement plan, maybe outlining who you would reach out to, how you would reach out to them, and how you would incorporate any feedback that you receive.
Okay. Next question. Can you ask the architect to also provide a larger floor plan showing overall location of concourse in relation to the overall airport?
Yes, we can provide those renderings.
Some of that stuff too.
All right. I'd love more plans slash drawings showing the overall floor plan and general site orientation, north, south, east, west, for sunlight considerations, and a section of the new concourse.
Sure. Yeah. So I will upload some renderings that are showing the overall concourse from like maybe a bird's eye view as it connects to the rest of the Boise Airport. And I can easily include some directions so that artists can consider sunlight.
Okay. Does the selected artist work with the architect slash engineers to create slash design a framework for the suspended installation?
Yes. So when it comes to attachments, how it's attaching, where's it going, that would be the selected artists working with our architects, our construction manager, general contractors, and our structural engineers to determine sort of how that gets framed into the ceiling and how it attaches.
Are out-of-state artists eligible to apply?
Yes, absolutely. So there's no local restriction on this one. So if you're out of state, please still consider applying.
Is this installation open for non-Idaho residents? We just answered that.
Absolutely.
All right. How do you want people to feel in this space?
That's a good question. I'm going to refer back to the project concept and goals. And I would say that we haven't, exactly tackled what a specific feeling would be in this space. So I'm just going to say, when you're thinking about like how you want people to feel in this space and see your work, think about renderings like this, some additional ones that we'll provide on Jagger. And this is going to be a pretty bright and open, airy space. I hope that that would answer your question of you want people to feel calm in the airport, you want them to enjoy where they are, really take in the natural light, the trees, and the art. Kind of a non-answer there, but
Okay. Can or will power be supplied to the ceiling area if lighting is a component of the concept? If yes, would bringing power to the artwork location be part of the artwork budget, or will that be included in the structure's electrical budget?
so if you want lighting to be a component of your work, that would be included in the art budget. And there will be electrical hookups. We will work with our contractor to negotiate where those go so that the art has appropriate access to those electrical outlets. And any power supply would run through the airport, but any components like lighting that you incorporate directly into the art would come out of the art budget.
While not typical, should there be a mechanism by which to lower the art for cleaning?
We don't have anything like that in place. So once it comes to cleaning, we would essentially go up to the artwork either on ladders or lifts to clean and maintain it.
Are interactive installations allowed? Example, a button on the wall that can move the orientation of the art.
That is a really good question, and one that I actually don't have an answer for right now. So I'm going to hold off on saying yes or no and get back to you on that.
Can you please provide a link for where we can find this slide deck?
Do we post? Do you mean like the slides that we're looking at currently, this slide deck?
I imagine so.
I'm gonna assume that you mean this slide deck that we're
It's
looking
gonna be
at.
we're gonna post the link. Everyone's gonna get a copy of it after, right?
Yeah, so if you registered for this, you'll receive a recording immediately after. It'll maybe take a day or two to be processed, but you'll receive a recording of this, so you will have access to these slides.
All right.
And the
Is it
information
possible?
in the RFQ, right?
Is it possible to release PDFs of the interior renders that do not include pink or dimensions on the image? The hope is to use this in an underlay for initial studies.
Sure, yeah. Any renderings that I upload to Jagger after this to help orient everyone to the space, I will omit any sort of like highlighting of location.
Right. You mentioned that the artwork should be limited to 1.5 pounds per square foot. I assume this refers to the dead load of the artwork only and does not include the minimum 5 PSF wind load for interior work at the airport location. Could you please confirm?
You know, I will reach out to our structural engineers and confirm that. I don't want to answer anything personally about the weight limit or the square foot because I'm not an engineer. So I'll follow up on that question as well.
Okay. Is there uh, are there specific meaning to you want behind this piece? For example, the recent 3D art RFQ for the airport wanted us to focus on nostalgia.
That is a great question. We haven't attached any sort of specific theme to this piece. So in that previous one we did, but these goals are really what we're trying to hit. So no specific theme. We know that artists are all going to approach these differently. But I would say that this is what you would tackle as your theme.
If an artist applies to more than one opportunity, are they only limited to one project or can they be rewarded more than one?
So you could only receive one project. You can apply to as many as you want, but you would only be awarded one contract.
How many more opportunities will be coming for installations at the airport?
That's a good question. We're looking at a few more that will release in essentially like a wave two in the coming years, but I don't have an exact number on those yet. I will say keep an eye out. It could be this year, next year, 2028. There will be some exciting pieces coming, but no specific number.
Right. Will the artist be making the suspended work or will the city hire the fabricator?
The artist will be required to hire their own fabricator or fabricate the work themselves. So that will be included in the artist budget.
And that information is in the project documents in Jagger.
Yes.
Right. How often does cleaning occur? Is there a cleaning protocol? I'm a fiber artist and want to ensure the fabric I use holds up.
That's a good question. Right now, we currently clean pieces around once a year. That is maintained by our collections team. And they do a really good job of either cleaning it themselves or contracting out with the appropriate company. So cleaning cadence would be at least every 2 years, maybe once a year, but there's no definitive cadence set for this piece yet.
Can you provide more details about the trees and any other plants shown in the rendering, species, variety?
Sure. So this is just currently a rendering. Whether or not the trees are actually installed is determined as part of a separate project managed by another project manager. So I don't know anything about what the trees will look like or how big they'll be or what species they'll be.
All right, and so far we don't have any more questions, but I'll hold off. Oh, one more just came in.
Okay.
How developed should concepts be at this time? Are you requesting full renderings?
So we are not requesting full renderings for this. This is what you are applying with. So just that signature page, short responses, artist resume, previous work samples, and reference contact sheet. So no full renderings have to be submitted at this stage. That's something that we'll ask the finalists for.
While clearly the focus of the art is the ceiling and space, but could trees be a part of the art instead of those which are live? Metal tree slash forest that blend with the overhead art.
If you're saying, can you incorporate trees into your own design? Absolutely, at up to the interpretation of each artist. But if you're saying replacing these with additional elements that connect to the suspended work, I don't think that that's an opportunity available for this project.
Are we allowed to add more than what is listed on the application response slide we are looking at?
Nope, you just answer those questions to the best of your ability. And then any more information that we want is something we'll request from finalists. So just this is what you're applying to.
And that information is laid out in the application criteria, and additional information is not going to be reviewed by the panelists. So
Good distinction.
just like Savannah said, just include your application materials that are requested within the RFQ documents.
Any other questions yet? Is that it? Okay, it sounds like that's it. I'm gonna go through real quick to the end here and
Oh.
do a fun.
Savannah, we just got one more.
All right.
Do you welcome emerging artists with smaller portfolios?
Scale, you had medium at scale.
Yeah, so one of the criteria that we're looking at is we are trying to reach experience at scale and cost. So everyone is welcome to apply, but this is probably geared more towards established artists who have done suspensions at this scale and at this cost.
Right. Should I include text, concept materials cost in the work samples, or should this just be images only?
Here's the sheet.
I think that there's a sheet that you fill out listed in as the package inside the package information, where you can answer those questions about your past work examples. Well, if any other questions come up, just put them back in the Q&A chat and we'll keep answering them. I'm just gonna do a final reminder that this is your deadline. Please write it down, don't miss it. And this is your deadline for posting questions on the Jagger Q&A board. So you'll notice that that's about a week before the actual deadline. So Wednesday, June 10th, 5 p.m., all your questions have to be submitted onto that Jagger board, and then we will post answers to them.
One more question. Will criteria number 5 be revised to not require concept?
So when we're looking at project concept, what we're looking at is your answers to these short responses and how well you incorporate this project concept and these goals. So we're not asking you to submit a visual concept there. We're asking you to explain how well you take in this information and include it into your written information.
I don't believe an Idaho artist has created an installation at this budget before. Is that what you understand? Not
I
sure.
don't know if how many Idaho artists have done installations at this budget either. We always encourage local artists to apply, but it's up to the selection panel and the criteria who ends up winning the award. Okay. Seems like questions are slowing down. That might be the last one. So we're gonna hang out here until 2 in case any other questions roll in. But if that answered all of your questions, feel free to drop off, submit any more in the Q&A board that come up. And looking forward to seeing everyone's applications.